I want to talk to you today about God has the final say. We all face situations that look permanent, like they're never going to work out. And it's easy to get discouraged and accept that it wasn't meant to be. But it's not over until God says it's over. The medical report may not look good, but that sickness doesn't have the last word. God has the final say. You may have struggled with an addiction for years, but the addiction doesn't have the final say. People may be against you. You have opposition, but people don't have the final say. No disrespect, but the doctor, the banker, the lawyer, the expert, the judge, they may be good people, but they're not on the throne. God is on the throne. Him being for you is more than the world being against you. And God won't let you get in a problem that He can't get you out of. He wouldn't have let the 3 Hebrew teenagers be thrown into a furnace if He didn't know the fire wasn't going to harm them. King Nebuchadnezzar thought he was in control. He thought he had the final say, that the fire would finish them off. That's what always happened. But this time, he wasn't dealing with ordinary people. He was dealing with children of the Most High God. They came out without the smell of smoke. There's something about you that makes you unstoppable. You have an advantage. God not only breathed life into you, but He put a hedge of protection around you. Nothing can touch you without His permission. You're not at the mercy of bad breaks, sicknesses, accidents, people against you. None of that can stop your destiny. Well, if I can get this supervisor to like me, maybe I'll get the promotion. No, you don't have to play up to people. When you go to work, be your best, let your talent shine. Then when it's time for you to be promoted, all the forces of darkness cannot hold you back. Well, my boss doesn't like me. Your boss doesn't have the final say. They are a pawn in the hands of God. You are not doing life by yourself. God is behind the scenes pulling strings, orchestrating things in your favor. At the right time, God will either cause that person to like you or move them out of the way. But they cannot stop your purpose. And when you know that God has the final say, you don't live frustrated, trying to manipulate people, worried about your children. You stay in peace knowing that nothing can stop God's plan. When the prophet Samuel came to Jesse's house to choose one of his sons as the next king of Israel, Jesse lined up 7 of his sons, said, "All right, Samuel, take your pick." He didn't bother to bring his youngest son, David, in from the shepherd's fields. He had already ruled him out, thought he's too young, too small, not talented. David's not king material. If people had the final say, this would be a problem. If people determined our destiny, we would have never heard of David. But when people leave you out, it may hurt, but that doesn't stop your purpose. Samuel said, "Jesse, I don't see a king in these sons. Do you have any other sons?" This shows us that what God has for you won't go to anyone else. People may try to manipulate things, discredit you, leave you out. Don't worry, God is on the throne. He's pulling the strings. He knew who wasn't going to like you, who was going to try to push you down. You don't have to try to get even. Stay on the high road, and what has your name on it will come to you. Jesse sent word for David to come into the house. When Samuel saw him, first thing he said, "There's the next king of Israel." God doesn't choose the way we choose. We look on the outside, the size, the talent, the personality. God looks at the heart. And people may have counted you out, but God has already counted you in. He overrides what people say. He overrides the injustice. "Well, Joel, I'm in an unfair situation, but nothing's changing." It's not over yet. That's not how your story ends. Your time is coming. Like with David, you're going to be called into the house. God has not forgotten about you. What He's promised is still on the way. Bad breaks didn't stop it. People didn't cancel it. Delays doesn't mean it's not going to happen. What God started, He's going to finish. He has the final say. Now, don't go around talking about how it's not going to happen, and this illness is going to be the end of me, and I'll never accomplish my dreams. You know what you're doing? You're putting your circumstances on the throne. You're saying they have the final say. They control my destiny. You need to take the problem off the throne and put God back on the throne. God is sovereign over your circumstances. That means God reigns over everything in your life. Not just over the universe, He reigns over the sickness. He reigns over your children, over your finances. 1 Peter 3 says, Jesus has the last word on everything and everyone. From angels to armies, He's standing right alongside God, and what He says goes. Now, you may be dealing with the sickness. The medical report says you're not going to make it. That's one word, but God has the last word. The sovereign God, the God who reigns, says, I am restoring health back unto you. Now, keep God on the throne. When thoughts tell you you'll never get well, just say, no thanks. I know a secret. My God has the last say. Sickness, you may have a say. Injustice, you may have a say. But I have bad news. What you say is subject to the God who created me. What you say is overruled by the Most High. He has the final say on everyone and everything. God promised Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a baby, but they were both way too old. Abraham was in his 80s. Sarah had gone through the change of life. There was no way in the natural for them to have a child.